Fiddler on the Roof in Yiddish initially began performances at the National Yiddish Theater Volksbühne at the Museum of Jewish Heritage this past summer. Its success was unprecedented, and it extended and sold out 4 times downtown. The show moved uptown to stage 42 on 42nd Street, where it's been playing to amazing critical and audience acclaim. This show was supposed to only run for a few weeks downtown at the museum, and it's now approaching its 1-year anniversary. The story of Fiddler on the Roof is based originally on the Tevye the Dairyman vignettes by Shalom Aleichem. This Yiddish production, translation of the musical, originally performed in Israel in 1965, was artfully crafted by Shraga Friedman, a renowned Israeli actor and director, just 1 year after the Broadway debut of Fiddler on the Roof. Friedman, a native Yiddish speaker, was well acquainted with the works of Aleichem and used his translation to infuse Fiddler with the rich literary references to the original Yiddish stories. This is the first time a production of the Yiddish translation has been performed in the United States. And to get you excited about meeting our amazing panel, we'd like to show you a little sizzle reel from Fiddler in Yiddish, followed by performances of 2 songs from the show.
A fiddler Affendach. Meshuggah, nein? Aber bei uns in Anatevke ist jeder einer ein Fiddler Affendach.
Tradition, 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 Tradition.
She's a mazel jeden, was wir sind da. Es hat der Poli, was dem Mechatolim, durch ein Michelina, mazel die Geschah. Mit Mazel und mit Broche und ewig, Jesus soll hier sein. Und der Mazel ist nicht bei uns, nach Asche ist bei uns, alle 3.
This is Matchmaker.
Downtown, it's with super titles on the side.
Oh, Yente. Oh, aber Emmet sind bloß doch Masavik, sie wollen sein. Junge Menschen können solche Sachen allein nicht beschließen.
Sie können noch einmal bringen, Emmet sind als Scheine.
Emmet sind feine.
Und nach Reiche.
Mit ich es. Schatchen mir zu. Wo ist wo? Tu, bist du. Schatchen, guck in dein Buch und such mir auch Hosen zu.
Scharchente, werde ich schon gleich. Bring ihm zu mir, schmal, lang und bleich. Bring mir ein Ringel und tu es nur bloß. Die Kinder so werden groß. Der Tote darf auf Minion. Mama darf erreichen, a Graf. Und ich darf mein Abkemine abbochen, nicht wirklich gut klug. Und scharchen mir zu. Heint will ich heint, tu bist du. Es kommt an die Nacht, lieg ich wieder und wein. Ich scharchen schon zu mir alle.
Von wann an bist du so einfach interessiert mit Chasson im Khave? Und ich hab gemeint, als dein Nose steckt nur in die Bücher. Und du hast gemeint von einer Neugaffene Rebenson.
Was nicht?
Wir haben einen einzigen Rebbe und der Rebbe hat einen einzigen Sohn. Was soll ich nicht nehmen das Beste?
Weil du bist ein arm Kind von einem armen Heim. Ist dem Erste, was Yente wird bringen, wirst du nehmen. Nicht azoi? Sicher azoi. Hodl, oi Hodl, hab ein Schruckpunkt war dir. A schöner und jung, a 60er mit 4 Oberachos. Und das ist stimmt. Stimmt! Mit Masel und mit Broche bist du zu begehen. Und was wird sein als nee? Ich weiß nicht allein. Khave! Ich hab ihm, guck an, wie sich geht. A langer, ich mein, a langer in der bringt Oberachos. Das ist Greit. Und gelebende Geschichte. Also ist vom Braten dick. Und schlagen schlagt der nicht durch. Das ist dein Glück. Hast gemeint, bekommst a Graf. Ich tu das Beste, was ich kann. An Jechis, nicht kein Potschechis. Begeht am Mann his name. Scharchente, sitzt doch allein. Ich bin sehr jung, es brennt nicht, ich mein.
Lass uns nicht fehlen zum Choppe wie Schoff und haben am meisten Sof.
Bleib Yente, Hayit mit Rachmones, gedenk, bis euch a Kalle gewinn. Ich bin nicht Harbe Benemones, ich Väter von Schreck und Wein. Scharfinte, tu gar nicht zu, spread die Topside, ich hab schon gelernt. Spielen mit Feuer, wird mein Arsch verbrennt. Ich bin unbedingt, regnet kein Regen, halt meine Freiheit, kriegst an mein Hart. Ach, was im
This is Far From the Home I Love.
Was soll ich tun, du sollst mich gut verstehen. Erfahre, was tue ich das? In aber Wolfenland vor ich allein, weit von mein lieber Heim. Ja, sie ist einmal von mir genug gewesen. Tage bloß unser Haus und mit Mischbuche und mit allem. Das ist gewesen mein Heim. Jetzt verstehe, als wartet auf mir und mit ihm zu sein ist mein Pflicht. Es wird sich sein, mit ihm schön ich. Gott die alte Heim ruft mich. Tag in der Fahr wächst mir das Herz und sieht, ich will mein Heim. Ich will euch ihm. Ist das ein Chalm, was ist mir zu blöd, weit von mein lieber Heim. Da, wo mein Herz will, bleibt da allein. Ich muss gehen, ich muss gehen. Jetzt will ich planschen, während wir stehen, weit von mein lieber Heim, weil ist vor mir
First, I just want to say thank you to the accompanists today. The show's musical director and conductor, Zalman Mlatek, who's also the artistic director of the National Yiddish Theater Volksbühne, and who brought this show to life by bringing in its director, the legendary Joel Grey, which is very cool. I want to introduce everyone who's, you guys are totally not in order of my paper here. Jennifer Babiak, who plays Golde in the show. Lauren Jean Thomas, who plays the fiddler. Back there is legendary theater legend Jackie Hoffman, Emmy-nominated Jackie Hoffman. Rosie Jo Neddy, who plays Khave. Rachel Zatcoff, who plays Tsaytl, and Stephanie Lynn Mason, who is Hodl. Welcome, guys. So I think the first question everyone is probably dying to know is the Yiddish. How did this happen? How did it come about for each of you? What made either you or your representatives think this is something you could do, you should do? Did you have any experience with Yiddish before, or did you have any experience with Fidler before?
This is actually my third show in Yiddish, but the first show, I have a little bit of a knack for languages and accents, so my agent said, why not? But I remember the first show I did, I was completely overwhelmed. But we have amazing teachers and amazing coaches that help us, and first of all, teach us phonetically, and they send us recordings and sound samples to, help us learn it. And then we have coachings where they tell us exactly what each word means, so we know what we're saying at all times. And this is actually my 6th Fidler.
Wow. So that's easier if you know what you're saying in the background of your head anyway, sort of the inflection and the acting.
Yes, absolutely. Even though our literal translation is actually a little different from the Joseph Stein. So it also adds a different dynamic and adds another little layer to the piece.
I was definitely hearing that when I saw the show. I was like, that's not what they're saying. That's not what they're saying. I kept kind of doing that in my ear. And when you rehearsed, were you rehearsing in English first, or did you always rehearse in Yiddish?
We rehearsed in both. Joel had us going back and forth in rehearsal, so it was pretty wild because we were learning the Yiddish and trying to retain the Yiddish and memorize the Yiddish, and he really wanted, an authentic result and to feel like it was our natural, organic language that we were speaking in, so we did go back and forth. Let's do the scene in English. Now let's do the scene in Yiddish. Now in English. Now, and it was a lot for our brains, yeah.
So how did it come together?
I think it came together pretty well.
The end result is beautiful.
No, that was a joke.
When did it kind of click?
Well, it was interesting because when we were asked to rehearse in English, my brain wanted to switch to the Stein, which I grew up listening to, the original English script. But that ended up being really not helpful because of the slight differences in the translation. So then it became, I'm not saying and singing the words that I have had memorized since childhood. I'm not singing the Yiddish that I've had memorized since 2 days ago. I'm actually translating the Yiddish to the direct English translation on my feet. So if I felt slow at times, like I wasn't speaking in time, it was very much an in the machine one way, out the other. Hopefully emotion is happening in the middle there.
No, for sure. Jackie, did you have a background in Yiddish growing up or anything?
I had a background in Yiddish growing up, but not speaking it, just hearing it, and then just peppering my life with little words here and there that I picked up along the way.
Anyone else want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I can't give enough praise to the team at the Volksbühne, Mottel Didner, Sabina Bruckner, and of course Zalman Mlatek, our music director. They made it pretty as easy as possible for us to really learn with the recordings, as Stephanie was saying, private coachings. We would all drill it, and then eventually it became more natural to us. But they were very, very patient. But it was my first time as well. Speaking Yiddish in a musical, so
she's not of our faith.
You don't say. No.
Yeah, so it was a whole process. I kind of learned it as like a song. the sounds first, and then the meaning, and it all kind of came together. But it was cool to see. It was amazing, the work ethic of this cast. We only had a few weeks, you know, so it was pretty cool how quickly it all came together.
Can you guys talk about Joel Grey as a director? I'm sure people are curious. There's sort of a Joel Grey renaissance now. People were watching, if anyone was watching Fosse Verdon, the character on the show. What was it like working with Joel Grey?
He really, I mean, he's a legend. He's amazing, and you know, it's funny now we're all family, and it's like, but you have to pinch yourself. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm standing next to Joel Grey. But he really brought out the truth in this show. It was really amazing. Everything. I don't know how many of you have seen it yet, but it's a real stripped down production. It's very, very minimal. The set by the amazing Beowulf Borit. It's very simple. The costumes by Anne Hould Ward, very beautiful and simple. And so Joel, you know, he assembled that whole team and really brought out the beauty in the story and the authenticity, and really pushed us all to go there. And it's incredible.
Anything else?
Well, and also everything she said, but very just pulling the truth and simplicity out of things. And he is an actor, as we know. So, I mean, has been acting his whole entire life and approached it like an actor with us. And he loves actors. And it was amazing working with him. Yeah.
Tell me about the audiences at the show. Clearly, the show has resonated with people beyond what anyone imagined and beyond other Yiddish productions. What are they telling you, and what are the audience telling you after they see the show, and what are you hoping as actors that they take away from the show?
I think seeing everybody crying is a good sign. And it's amazing how moved people are deeply emotionally, not just Jews, but like everybody who sees this thing. It's just amazing how deeply it touches people. So I think we've already got them walking away with what we want them to walk away with, is like, it's such a pure production, and it's so not pretentious, and it's so not a bullshit, look at our production. And I think people are really getting it, which is kind of great.
I think also, unfortunately, at this time, it's incredibly a relevant piece, and it really illustrates that, you know, unfortunately, people still are very afraid of what they don't understand, and to bring light and to start conversations, you know.
I also think people are saying that it feels new and fresh, even though it's been done so many times. I didn't even realize there have been, when we were just talking in the other room, there have been 4 or 5 revivals already.
And 3. Maybe, and I'm not that old.
Yeah, but there have been so many revivals, and I think so many of the audience members have said to us, it just feels like how Fidler should be. And I think the language has so much to do with that, and the simplicity, just to echo what everyone said.
What have you, now it's almost been a year. Have all of you guys been involved for the whole time? What have you learned in this
Yiddish?
Gosh, that's
Not really.
I don't know how useful that's going to be post. But
no, but even like, I mean, that's very funny, but also true, because we have acquired so many words now, and that we are able to construct sentences and able to, like, at first it was really frustrating to not be able to ad-lib on stage and not know, you know, in just scenes where you don't necessarily have dialogue, but you want to be having a side conversation or something and not knowing what to say, and now we're coming up with all these things to be able to say.
It's kind of like a language class in reverse. Like when you're in level 3 of a language class, you like are structuring sentences, and you're like, I know pronouns, and I know verbs and how they're conjugated, and I know objects. Instead, we came in and we were showed full sentences, explained why this verb is past tense, how this negation negates, and now go act it. And now I'm starting to learn which is he, which is she. I just learned hello a couple weeks ago. I've been doing the show for a year, and I just learned that good elf is hello. So it's nice. Good elf. Good elf.
Oh, it sounds Swedish.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
I guess my grandparents never said hello. I don't know. I didn't know that word. What have you learned is sort of I don't know, what surprised you about what people are saying about what you think about these characters? I guess let's talk about the fact we only have women here, in case you haven't noticed. And the show was definitely written in a different time, written based on stories that were written in a different time. And yet there are these really strong female characters. Clearly someone chose to put a female fiddler on that roof. Do you think these women were viewed as these strong, bold people in their own time? Are we viewing it through today's lens? Are we viewing it through the lens of the writers in the 60s? What do you think?
I think the show really shows that people think that the Jewish traditional woman was kind of kept down because she was putting the household together, but that was such a crucial, that's the basis of everything, is keeping the laws of the Torah and keeping that household is what built their society. And there's incredibly strong characters in this show. I think there are women who defy convention and defy their father and want to marry the suitor of their choice. There's Yente, who's a businesswoman and didn't even have any children. So I'm amazed that, even written in 1964, I'm amazed that they reflected how strong and powerful women had to be at that time.
Yeah, I think anyone who doesn't see this musical as feminist is delusional. Because I mean, some people look at the show and they're like, okay, so 3 girls all marry men. But it's interesting because Tsaytl makes a bold choice in marrying someone that her father did not pick, someone who's in the village and Jewish. If she hadn't made that choice, Hodl wouldn't have been able to make a bolder choice of marrying a Jewish man who is not from the village and who is living far away and has slightly different political views. And then my character, Khave, makes the boldest choice of all, but she wouldn't have had the wherewithal to make that choice if not for her sisters before her. And I think that kind of shows how gaining rights in general throughout the ages have worked. You know, you can't fight for women's ability to own land until you fight for the step before. You can't fight for women don't have to wear skirts before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also think too that Tevye values intelligence and wanted to make sure that his daughters were smart. Like we say in Matchmaker, for Papa, make him a scholar. And I love how in our translation, it's not make him handsome, but it's make him sharp and make him smart. So I think, and the fact that Khave reads, and that these women have been taught by their father, in essence, that intelligence is important and being educated is important.
I also think, going off of that, to have the fiddler be female, which I don't think was given too much weight when I got hired, truly. I think it was more exciting for the women in the cast. But especially since we've transferred uptown, because of how close I am to Tevye and the rebuttals, it's hard to be able, you notice that I am dressed in a skirt and as a woman, because I'm not as much in the shadows. And I think it says a lot that Tevye's vision of this thing that represents tradition is a woman. I think that says a lot about how he views his daughters.
And I think we all kind of strengthen each other. Like our Golde, especially Jeanne, she's so amazing and so grounded and strong. And it's not what you're used to seeing, this over-the-top shtick. It's really rooted. And I think, I, as the oldest daughter, to find strength from that and always say she's like a pioneer woman because she's the first one to no, I'm going to marry who I love, And then even with Lauren as the fiddler in the Hoffman ballet, just circling around her, and it's just being women. It's really empowering.
Yeah, that's powerful. Jennifer, do you want to? I know in a previous production you played the daughters, and now you play Golde. Yeah. So, what's that meant to you, and how did you kind of view her, and what's the conception of Golde now?
I really never even thought I would be playing this role. I think it's, I was like, wow, it was so cool to attack her, and just to do it as I would, as a mother, and loves her family, loves her husband, and then it helped, doing it in Yiddish. It's not really been done before. So it was really cool to kind of make it my own, and I really just found this love for the role and this piece in a new way. And it has been cool to sort of it's like sunrise, sunset, the passage of time. I've always loved this show, and I loved these daughter roles are amazing, and now Golde is just such an amazing role, and like, look at these beautiful roles for women. I was thinking about the other shows of this time. You had Carousel, you had Julie Jordan and Carrie Pipperidge. You had your ingenue leading lady and supporting character role, and now with this there's so many amazing female roles that it's really, really cool.
Jackie, so you're known primarily in the theater and the TV, film, and theater world as a comic actress, and while this show certainly has a lot of comedy, it's not necessarily thought of as pure musical theater comedy. Why this show? Why this role now? For you?
Why this show now? Well, it's my first Fidler, and I'm not getting any younger. And I thought it would be such a cool thing to do in the Yiddish, and I'm still held on a very short psychological leash by my mother, who's 97, and so it's kind of for her at the twilight of her life, and it lessens the guilt just a little bit.
What does she think?
But don't worry, there's still plenty of guilt. She got here at 97 and saw it, and she's just living for it. You know? Oh, there's still audiences. It's still going, right? Yes.
Checking Variety every week. How, for those of you who your families maybe don't have a background in Yiddish, and your friends, how do you reassure them, that they're going to enjoy the show, even reading the super titles and everything?
The English subtitles, it helps. There's English subtitles, super titles, but it's amazing. Like my family, from Long Island, they're like obsessed. It's amazing. They come and they're like, oh, it's like my favorite thing I've ever seen you do, and it's just amazing. This show in another language, in Yiddish, it's like really hitting everyone, theater lovers, non-theater lovers, of the faith, not of the faith. It's incredible.
And piggybacking off of that, I think honestly, it's a show about a family, and anyone can relate to that. And children do things that their parents don't approve of, and there are issues. So I think that whether you're Jewish or not, people are relating to this and loving it and being very touched by it.
Tell me about your favorite moments from the show. What's your favorite moment to play?
My favorite moment that I'm not a part of is the Fidler dance.
Oh.
I stand off stage every night and watch it. It's a moment after L'chaim where Tevye is super drunk and he's walking home and suddenly the fiddler appears and he's like, oh, it's you, man. Tradition, here you are. You're happy with me because I just agreed to marry my eldest daughter to a rich guy. We're buds. And the fiddler starts to play. This is how my interpretation of it. The fiddler starts to play, and Tevye takes his empty vodka bottle and pretends to play. And they have a beautiful dance duet together. And you get to see the love in Tevye's eyes for the fiddler, for tradition. And I think that really makes you trust Tevye, trust that his intentions are pure and that he truly believes that he's doing the right thing at all times, believes that the traditions are what keep his family and the village together. But it isn't serious. It's very fun, and he's laughing. She has a mischievous grin on her face. Also, she's playing the fiddle while dancing. She actually plays the violin every night on stage live. It's amazing and beautiful. And it's just joyful. Tevye is just kind of bouncing around, and that's my favorite part.
That's sweet, Rosie. My favorite is the dream. I love it. So so much fun. It's a really cool way of doing it in our show. There's shadows and, Fruma Sarah, Jodie Snyder, who plays Fruma Sarah, is unbelievable, amazing. And she's on top of someone's shoulders in this long, this beautiful costume. And it's just fun for us all to get scared every night. It's just literally.
It's fun for you.
Oh, it's the best. Oh, yeah. But it's so fun, and it's just an awesome production number.
I mean, I'm lucky. I have a really fun role, so I have a lot of favorite moments, which I've never said about anything in my life. But I think that initial entrance for tradition after Steven Skybell just gives that first tradizia and his magnificent voice and I never get tired of it, just the pride in that moment and the entrance. And it's really cool connecting with a cast and having your whole cast in a circle at the beginning and end of a show. And I'm like, man, I want every show I do to start with a cast in a circle. And it sounds so hokey and cheesy, but it's really cool.
I think that's when I started crying. I think that's when the tears start, right? Lauren, you want to talk a little bit about your role as the fiddler? What was the direction you were given from day one? Like, what's the conception?
Well, day one, I was handed the violin score from the pit. So I wasn't really sure where they were going to go with the fiddler because...
you came to them as an actor, not as a violinist?
I came to them as an actor-musician. So actually, when we were talking about learning Yiddish, they had posted on Actors Access that they were still looking for a fiddler and that it could be male or female, and they were looking for someone who plays violin. So I submitted, and I was shocked to receive in return like pages upon pages of Yiddish sides. So I went into my first audition with Joel Gray and Zalman and the entire creative team, and I had to do all of the it felt like 15 minutes of Yiddish sides. I don't know. And then I played what felt like 1 minute of violin. But so when I got hired, I was like, wow, maybe they'll have me speaking more, or doing, maybe this is going to be a really innovative fiddler. Who knows? But then I kind of collaborated a bit with Zalman and Stosh to figure out how do we have a real violinist do this as the fiddler, because there are a lot of dance moves in Jerome Robbins' choreography that you just can't do as a violinist when you're playing. So it's kind of a learn-as-you-go experience.
I just want to say, if anyone has any questions, we should start lining up.
Are you called the Juglers, I hear?
Sorry. Who's the Jugler?
Is there like a group called Google Goyim or something? Or that's just everybody else?
Wait, is that actually what you guys are called? Oh, congrats.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
That's cool.
Are there any questions from the audience? The microphone right there. Do we have any? No. Okay, so we'll go back. Tell me we said it's beyond just learning the Yiddish in the year, sort of what has surprised you about your character, about what you've learned about the character that's different than it was day one?
Well, I think we're all surprised at, this was supposed to be a summer gig downtown at the museum to run for 6 weeks. And then there were 4 or 5 extensions at the museum. And then, transferring to a commercial production in Times Square at Stage 42, it's like just been beyond our wildest imagination what could happen with this show for everyone, I think. And we're coming up on a year anniversary. June 4th is when we started rehearsal. So it's just been so wild. Yeah. So I think that's the most surprising thing.
I think, and also in a character that was supposed to be kind of a comic relief character, that it turned out like much more layered and tragic and kind of desperate, and it had more layers than I thought that get eroded away as the show continues.
Talk about your tevya a little bit. What has
There's not enough time.
How much time?
We have a little time.
His name is Steven Skybell.
Tell me.
He's really cute. He's really cute. He has 2 dogs.
Tell me about he's different than the traditional, like what we think of as the guy playing tevya.
He's so incredibly honest, truthful, down to earth. There's never a false moment on stage, and especially like in your individual scene work, he's always there for you and taking whatever you're giving and just it's like a tennis match. And he's just, I can't say enough amazing things about him because he's simply the best scene partner I've ever had on a stage ever.
Wow.
He's a national treasure.
It's true.
He's a national treasure, and he is the pillar of our show. And he is unbelievably present at every single moment, and just his eyeballs. It's just there's worlds in his eyes.
Well, and also he truly is a cast leader, and I believe that he sets an example for the rest of the cast, and he so cares about the piece because sometimes through a long run, other casts in the past can get complacent or start to not care as much, but he truly sets that example so that everybody's there 100% every night, and yeah.
He also it's really important to him, the relationships he has with every single person in the cast, which I just think is really rare for a person who's playing such an iconic role where he's typically the star, Like one little scene, it's the milk and cheese scene when Perchik comes in and he gives the cheese. As he gives the cheese to every single person in the community, every one of the guys, he says their name, which like the actors made up themselves what names they want to be called. But I just think that's really sweet. And for me as the fiddler, he took my relationship with him so seriously, and we had some just really wonderful talks about what our relationship was and what it means to him and his relationship with God. And I wasn't anticipating that, nor did he really need to do that. But it made it really special, and I think it makes our show that much more special.
Like the third day of rehearsal, I was watching his work, and I was looking at his face, and I was like, something is different. What is happening here? I was so blown away. And I turned to someone, I forget who, and I was like, I think it's his dimples. The person was like, what are you talking about? We don't know each other. We're not friends. And I was like, when you look at his face, you can imagine what his tevya was like as a child. I feel as though when I look at him, I can see him growing up. And a few weeks later, when I was speaking to him, I found out that he actually played the role of tevya at 17 at Interlochen Performing Arts Camp and at 21 at Yale as an undergrad. And this is his first time playing it age appropriately. I don't know.
I don't think this marriage of role and actor comes along frequently. It's really just it's incredible to watch and witness and be a part of.
We can attribute the success of this production to him because he's what drives it.
Wow. What have you guys learned from Jackie?
Oh my God.
I'm sitting right here. I can leave.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Oh, I mean, we all have like abs of steel from laughing at her every night. I mean, she's just the best. She's like, she's incredible to work with. She's a pillar.
She loves Hello Kitty.
She loves Hello Kitty. No, she's just the nicest, coolest person.
Human.
And just incredible to work with and watch every night. And
she doesn't like to smile, but then... But that means when she smiles, you can tell you've done something good.
Earned it.
She's like, you always smile. You always smile when you watch the Dancer Boys.
All right.
You don't want anyone, when you watch the Dancer Boys dance, you don't think I can see you.
That's just lust.
I don't think they're interested in you.
Are all your partners, your other halves in the show, have they also been with it basically for the whole year?
No. He actually came in, Drew Siegla, who plays Perchik now, came in August. The original Perchik lives in Germany and went back to Germany to get married, and he has his own band there, and they were going on tour.
Amazing klezmer.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Cool.
Incredible.
Daniel Kahn, he's the Yiddish rock star.
Yes.
Real life Perchik.
He is truly a real life Perchik. But then Drew came in August 10th. So it was interesting making that adjustment and how it changed the role and it changed the dynamic.
How so?
They fell in love in real life.
They're dating. We're a couple on and off stage.
Each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very adorable.
Yeah.
Not a match I made.
What? Did that happen with anyone else on the stage or off?
Me and Jackie.
Yeah, right. Forgot. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Ben Liebert, who plays Mattel. He's wonderful, and he's also about like a foot shorter than me. Not really, but practically.
And you in heels and
like I'm in heeled boots, and he's a shorter dude, and it's wonderful. He's such an incredible actor, and we've formed such a wonderful friendship, and I feel like I'm with my childhood best friend on stage, and we feel every night he sings Miracle of Miracles, and it feels like a miracle. We're just looking at each other with like pure gratitude to just be there and be with each other, and I love him. So
you could tell I loved that number. It was amazing.
Thanks.
Really beautiful.
Am I supposed to talk about Fietke?
Yeah, you can.
Cameron Johnson. He's the best. He's a very good singer. Okay, every night after the show, if I have a friend there, they come up and they're like, "Oh my God, thank you for the tickets. What's Cameron like?" He was amazing. I'm like, No, he is amazing though.
He is like a body of death, this guy.
He's very
really
fit.
built.
Very feminist show, you guys.
No, a dear friend of mine.
A smart young man.
Oh, man.
And I will say that both Perchicks were amazing actors and just have been wonderful scene partners and great.
There's a person
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So, this has been great, but I was just wondering, I don't know why these lights are on me like this. Maybe this is my 10 seconds of fame here, but one thing that occurred to me as you were all talking about your roles is that I was just wondering, when you first started preparing for this, like, could you get the movie out of your mind, or were there like conscious decisions that you made, like, I don't want to play the character the way I've seen, because the movie is so iconic. I know there have been all these revivals on Broadway, but like on a relative scale, like probably tens of millions of people have seen the film compared to any revival on Broadway or anywhere else. Like, did you make conscious decisions like, I don't want to play the character that way, or I'm going to take it in a different direction, or was it just something that evolved?
I haven't seen the movie since we started, which was on purpose because it was my favorite movie growing up. And when I was a sad teacher, when I was a sad teenager, I would watch the movie once a month and cry. I love the movie. I have a huge crush on Tsaytl. Where was I going with this? It got a little distracted. I tried to make it my own. I love Neva Small's work as Khave, and I actually got to meet her, which was really cool. We got to meet Tsaytl. We got
Rosalind Harris.
And Rosalind Harris. And it's because of them that I feel such deep love for the story. But I tried to make it my own as much as I could.
Yeah, I had to do like a conscious Molly Pecan or not Molly Pecan. Because Molly Pecan has been such a force to my whole life. And I'm like, well, you can't go wrong or can't get any better than Molly Pecan. So it's kind of Jackie Hoffman, Molly Pecan combo platter.
Delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually hadn't seen the movie in so long, and you know, doing this in Yiddish, we're all approaching it in a new way and in such a simple way. I think, you know, we kind of all found our own.
And we were directed in a particular way. Also, I mean, the musical is a perfect musical, and it has this. The thread is still there, but the characters and the way we're portraying them it's different. Mm-hmm. Very different from the movie, I think.
I also think what Stephen has said to people who've asked the same question, because there have been so many iconic tevias, is that the language really helped to free it up. Mm-hmm. And also, I was excited you brought up Molly Pecan, because I had no idea that she did this silent film called, I'm going to say this totally wrong, Yidel Yidel mit Fiddle. I don't speak Yiddish in this show, so that's my. So she played this character in one of her silent films where she disguised herself as a man to play violin in a wedding band. It was a really cool thing, and that she ended up playing Yente too. It was very cool.
Similar question, but more related to the music and emphasis. With there being different, aside from being in Yiddish, the lyrics themselves are different. How did you find that you had to, like which sections did you find that the acting was different in a way that you found interesting? It's like, that's a different twist. I really like it, for example. Either on the lyrics or the acting.
The wordplay in Matchmaker was different because match in English can mean both you light a fire with one and shadchen, as we say in Yiddish, an arranged marriage. So Matchmaker references fire. Playing with fire, a girl can get burned, spielen mit fire. But the wordplay wasn't quite there, so we had to find the fun in other aspects of the song.
I know that I have at least one extremely darker little turn in Matchmaker. It's kind of in the English, and in the traditional, it's up to this minute I misunderstood that I could get stuck for good, and in the direct translation of the Yiddish, it's please don't send me like a sheep to the slaughterhouse to meet a terrible end. So, I mean, it's just a little bit darker.
And we couldn't, I know with l'chaim, if it was literally translated, it would be l'chaim, 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 l'chaim. It's to you, joy, soll sein mit Glück, to you, everyone, joy.
Soll sein,
it
should be.
Oh,
right?
See, I don't know shit. Soll sein, it should be.
I just bounce around and listen to it.
Right.
And Rich Man is Welch bin a Rothschild. It's that's probably the biggest change that he sings about, being a man of a rich family, instead of a rich man. It's based on a Sholem Aleichem story, not in the Tevye stories, I think. But so it's a really, really cool difference in our show. I love that number.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. So considering what you just mentioned, have any of you read the original book by Sholem Aleichem? First part. Secondly, did you let it influence your parts in any way? And thirdly, do you know if any of the translations that you did from Yiddish were actually influenced by the book rather than by the original Broadway show? Sorry about the long question.
Yeah, I love the stories. I actually, when I did the show in college, I had never seen it before, and so I read the stories first, and I had these pictures of the characters in my head. I love nowadays getting a chance to read the book before you see the movie, and now with this production, it's like brought back all those memories, and it's like, it's like just like what I pictured. The stories are amazing. I mean, they were written over 100 years ago, and they still make me laugh out loud. It's just such good writing, and these characters he created are just incredible. Yeah.
One moment that I really love in the Sholem Aleichem stories that's really been brought more to life in our musicals, actually, concerning you, is when Golde goes tell Tevye that Khave is married to Yedke, and he says, "Let us sit shiva for her," and I think that really deepens it of, that Khave it really emphasizes the consequences of the choice that she has made, and that to her family she's considered dead. So Khave is toit. So yeah.
And we include that in our production. The Shraga Friedman, when he translated it, included many more bits from the stories than the original American script. There's one image from the stories that I like to keep with me. Khave in the confrontation scene when she asks her father, please accept us. In the books, there's an image of her running after Tevye in his cart with, I forget the words exactly, but it's something like with wildness in her face. Like it depicts her crazed eyes, which is something I've used. Also in the translation that we use, the scene after the ballet where she asks her father, it's "Hear me out, Tata. Hear me out first. I will die. I will starve if you leave from this place. Just listen to me first." But the original English is "I beg you to accept us." So that was an interesting change of perspective.
Thank you.
Another question.
Hi, I saw the show and really, really loved it, so mazel tov. One question though, I remember a woman on the stage who never had a speaking role. Like she just was sort of on, and she wasn't like maybe she was ensemble, but she seemed like she had like more of a role than that, but I thought it was interesting that I think she never said like one word throughout the whole show.
Was it Shandel? Was it Muttl's mom?
Did she speak?
She was younger, and I don't know whether
Is it her?
Oh, the fit.
Is it the fiddler?
Was she blonde?
Yeah, I don't remember.
There's I mean, the ensemble is amazing, and there's a few, like the woman who plays Grandma Tsaytl in The Dream is in the ensemble.
Okay.
And there's one amazing girl in the ensemble, I think I was telling you before, that covers all three of these girls in Yiddish.
Yeah.
And you know, but I think she has a couple of lines. But anyway, there's townspeople that, you know, and Joel actually, during rehearsal, you know, he said, you know, Sholem Aleichem could have written this story about any one of you, the shoemaker, the bookseller, but it happened to be Tevye and his family. But we all have characters, and we all have families that are being torn apart by the end, you know. So it's really devastating to watch some of them go separate ways at the end, you know, from their family. And anyway, they all. So I'm sure there's a few of the women.
Yeah, there was one that stood out for me, and I wasn't sure if there was some significance or not. But
when we originated the production downtown, it was only supposed to run for 6 weeks, so we didn't have any coverage externally. We had no cast members that weren't on stage, so all of our understudies were within. And Kayleen, who's amazing, who covers all three of us, is in the ensemble. And when any of us were out and she went in, we had to just have one less person in the ensemble, which is interesting because our cast is already significantly smaller than the traditional Fiddler cast. Usually there are at least 40 people in the show, and ours is 28?
26, I think.
26?
On stage, and then with
yeah, and the guys that dance in the Chaim, the amazing dancers, also do the bottle dance, and they do so much. Yeah, a lot of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I think this is a really great conversation. I very much enjoyed it. You guys can see the production of Fiddler in Yiddish with English supertitles in the heart of the Theater District at Stage 42 on 42nd Street. There's great group pricing available. Look at fiddlernyc.com for tickets and more information. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks.